everyone. My name is Elizabeth Manns, and I'd like to welcome you to the April 4th Coalition Show. This is the October 2nd, 223 edition of the show. It is the 473rd show that we have done since the closing of the North Adams Regional Hospital, and is the 13th show that we will be doing since the announcement of its possible reopening. The April 4th Coalition's mission statement is: we are for workers' rights and collective bargaining rights and are against tax breaks for the rich and corporations who ship our jobs overseas. We support all the articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, but as is our custom, we put the emphasis on Article 23.
And I'll do the first two. Number one, everyone has the right to work, to free choice of employment, to just and favorable conditions of work, and protection against unemployment. Number two, everyone, without any discrimination, has the right to equal pay for equal work.
Number three, everyone who works has the right to just and favorable remuneration, compensation, whatever form it comes in, ensuring for himself or herself and his or her family an existence worthy of human dignity and supplemented, if necessary, by other means of social protection. Michael.
Number 4, everyone has the right to form and join trade unions for the protection of his or her interests.
And as is our custom, we thank Michael Putnam, who I believe is still the program director for the community radio station WMNB LP 107.1 for airing the audio portion of our shows on Fridays at 6 p.m. and the fabulous staff here at Northern Berkshire Community Television Corporation, Joanne Holbert, Nicole A. Brown, and David Fabiano for helping us produce the show. Without them, we would not be here. Dick, we lost a giant in the Senate I think on Thursday of last week, correct?
I believe so.
I think Dianne Feinstein?
Yes.
From California?
Yes, she was the longest serving woman senator in the history of the Senate. So let's watch a film clip about the news of her passing.
This is an NBC News special report. Here's Savannah Guthrie.
Good morning. We come on the air with breaking news. Senator Dianne Feinstein, the longest-serving female senator in U.S. history, has passed away. She was 90 years old. Two sources familiar with the matter confirming that this morning. Dianne Feinstein, first elected in 1992, representing the state of California for more than 30 years. She faced persistent health problems in recent years, leaving quite a legacy as well. NBC's Andrea Mitchell with a look back at her life.
Dianne Feinstein, a leading woman senator for generations, whose political career in California was launched by tragedy. November 1978, San Francisco Mayor George Moscone and Board of Supervisors member Harvey Milk were assassinated in City Hall. Then Board of Supervisors President Dianne Feinstein tried desperately to save Milk's life.
Both Mayor Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk have been shot and killed.
The event cementing her passion for gun reform. She was elected mayor and became a national figure on Democratic nominee Walter Mondale's shortlist for running mate before he chose Geraldine Ferraro.
I've had an opportunity now to be the first woman and the first mayor to be asked to go through an interview process. And I view that as a major opening of a door and something that's very important to do.
It was the Clarence Thomas hearings before an all-male Senate Judiciary Committee in 1991 that got Feinstein to the Senate, as she recalled in 2018.
And what did I see but an all-male Senate Judiciary Committee grilling Anita Hill? And it was not nice. And it was not what one would like to see. And that was my incentive to run in 1992.
After her decisive Senate win, then-Senator Joe Biden made her the first woman on the Judiciary Committee. In Congress, she quickly made an impact, leading the charge for an assault weapons ban in 1994. As Senate Intelligence Chair, she took on the CIA's waterboarding of prisoners, holding hearings into the Bush administration's harsh interrogation techniques. But in later years, colleagues faulted her performance during Supreme Court confirmations, praising Republican Lindsey Graham for getting Trump nominee Amy Coney Barrett confirmed just weeks before the 2020 election.
This has been one of the best set of hearings that I've participated in.
But through political and personal trials, Dianne Feinstein's legacy as a trailblazer endures.
Yes.
Yeah,
You know,
she was a trailblazer, and yeah, I remember watching the Harvey Milk movie that they made on Harvey Milk, and she doesn't play a big, they don't play a big, build up her role that much, because at that point she was just a local representative, but they do show the clip of that press conference, and her and us, and that, which was her launching pad, and you remember looking at her and saying, this is a woman who took a trauma, a tragedy, and just committed herself to a cause.
right. You know, she was outraged by what she saw, but she funneled that outrage instead of anger. She put it into working for the betterment of the people around her. And there was a letter in the Berkshire Eagle talking about the gun violence. And I know around town you'll see a lot of signs about protect our
Stop.
First
Yeah.
Amendment rights, stop
Stop the bill. I was wondering
Stop
if
Bill
HB
4420 or whatever, but there was a letter to the Eagle rebutting that and talking especially about the Cheshire selectmen and police writing a letter to Representative Barrett. So I just thought I'd read that letter. It was by Patri Sardo of Williamstown. He helped establish the Be Smart for Kids in Berkshire County schools to help parents and adults normalize conversations around gun safety. So the title of the letter is Gun Violence, Not Gun Laws Should Outrage. To the editor, on September 2nd, the Cheshire Select Board and the Police Department submitted a letter to Representative John Barrett III condemning pending gun safety omnibus legislation, HD 4420, an act modernizing firearm laws, as unjust prosecution, unquote. Cheshire Select Board and Police Department condemned the omnibus gun bill. It was in the Eagle on September 2nd. Where is the passion and the outrage when teachers have to learn tactics to stop a school shooter while risking their lives? Where is the concern over children and teens suffering crushing anxiety about a potential gunman killing their classmates? Does the Cheshire Select Board know that guns are now the #1 cause of death in Americans aged 0 to 18? Do they know that the number doubles if you add 18 to 19-year-olds? Do they know that 4.6 million children live in a home with an unsecured firearm, a major contributor to unintentional gun deaths and injuries and teen suicides? Where's the outrage about that? At a Greenfield listening tour organized by State Representative Michael Day, I heard angry gun owners bemoan how onerous the process is for obtaining a gun license is in Massachusetts. Some said there should be no restrictions at all on guns. Many gun owners responsibly store their guns and educate their children how to handle guns safely. Great. But some gun owners don't, which is why S305, an act to promote safe firearm storage, education, and increase the well-being of students, is in the omnibus bill. Why aren't these folks working with those of us trying to end gun violence instead of echoing false claims about the Second Amendment being under assault? It's not. There are more guns in our country than people. Our rate of gun deaths, homicides, and suicides continues to rise. Where's the outrage about that? BeSmartForKids.org presentation to schools, police chiefs, or speaking with community members. We've spoken with many gun owners. All of them, to a person, care about the safety of children. You can be both a gun owner and a gun violent prevention activist. The two are not mutually exclusive. No one is trying to take away your hunting rifle or abolish the Second Amendment. Owning a gun is a serious responsibility for the owner, their family, and the community. The process to get one should reflect that. HD 4420 will not solve all our gun violent issues, but it's a great start to protect you and me and to save the lives of children, mine and yours, of non-gun owners and gun owners, everyone. The outrageous thing would be to do nothing.
Mm-hmm. So as I understand with 4420, the intent is for them to go through a class. for, if you want to be a gun owner?
I don't know what 4420 is, because when I called Representative Barrett's office, the bill is in committee.
Right.
So it's not even, there's not a final bill yet.
Correct.
So there's a
They're
lot
trying
of
to
things
merge
are
it.
being discussed, and we don't know
Right.
what the final the
But,
outcome
but
is going
since
to
his
be.
focus seemed to be in this article on safety of having the gun secured at home,
Right, well, this, that's
you know,
what
and
this,
educating, it isn't going to hurt if you have to attend one class. You have to go through classes as it is before you even get issued a gun permit, because I went through this process, but they basically teach you how to load a gun, fire a gun safely, how to take it
Store
apart,
it.
put it together and store it, but they don't really put the emphasis on the psychology involved, in the home when you have the gun. They put it more on how to deal with it if you get stopped by the police, to remember to put your hands out the window because you're now designated that you might have a gun and things like that. They don't put the emphasis on how to protect people in the home.
again, I don't.
And if that's what I think he's about, I don't have a big problem. I could certainly sit in one more class for an hour.
Yeah, I don't
to
know
learn that.
what it entails, but again, the law isn't completed yet. So there's a dialogue about it. So let's just, let's do some studying and some interaction. And what this letter, I think, is saying, that people should talk and communicate. If we have the common belief that we want to save children in schools, protect innocent people from being killed by gun violence, let's work on that together instead of getting real angry and pointing the finger like you're trying to take away my constitutional rights. Let's figure out a way, we're the only country in the world that has this much gun violence. When those assault weapon ban was in place because of Dianne Feinstein and others that put that in place, the gun deaths went down.
They went down, they did.
And, we have in the Constitution, we have the right to bear arms, but it doesn't mean that we have the right to every weapon available to us. We don't have a right to a nuclear weapon. We don't have a right to hand grenades and all these other
Thanks.
implements of war. And assault weapons are implements of war,
When I was young, my father had all kinds of guns, and because he was in the Second World War, and he had a shotgun and a rifle and a pistol, and back then that wasn't scary to me. But to see a gun today, because back then there wasn't anything about gun violence or anybody being shot and anything like that when I was a kid. And now you have all this violence. Why?
You have all the school shootings now.
Yes, out there all of these school shootings and everything like that. I mean, the last thing I remember in school is, boy, I better pay attention to my teacher or I'm going to get in trouble. Not that I have to worry about somebody coming in who's going to shoot one of my classmates, or I can't understand how kids can go to school nowadays, without anxiety. And it's terrible. I think it's absolutely terrible. I had a gun when I was a kid, and I went shooting with my father. Back then, there were no rules. You didn't even have to have a license. We shot in a sandbank where there were no people, and tin cans, and that's the way it was back then. But nowadays, I see there's a definite crisis.
Yeah. Well,
You want to turn it back to Dianne Feinstein?
Yeah,
Because
well,
we had another clip.
we had a couple of clips about the replacement of Dianne Feinstein that's happening in the Senate. It's an important seat because there's divided by just
It's like two
a
votes.
majority of one, I think. And so let's listen to what Gavin Newsom did in replacing Dianne Feinstein.
Breaking news tonight at 11, a replacement named for the late Dianne Feinstein, and it's not a household name to most Californians. Governor Newsom revealing his choice to be California's next senator. keeping his promise to name a black woman to replace the late senator, Governor Newsom has chosen LaFonza Butler.
And she is no stranger to politics. Eyewitness News reporter Sophie Flay joining us live in studio with more on the governor's pick. Sophie.
Jory, Michelle, California Senator Dianne Feinstein, the oldest member of the U.S. Senate and longest-serving senator, died Thursday night. And tonight we're learning Governor Gavin Newsom has selected LaFonza Butler to fill the vacant California Senate seat, and she's expected to break glass ceilings just like Feinstein. Butler is a Democratic strategist and advisor to Vice President Kamala Harris.
What he did is he picked somebody outside of government who cares about issues that he cares about.
Butler will be the only black woman serving in the U.S. Senate and the first openly LGBTQ person to represent California in the chamber. Newsom fulfilling his pledge to appoint a black woman if the seat became available, saying, quote, LaFonza will carry the baton left by Senator Feinstein, continue to break glass ceilings, and fight for all Californians in Washington. Butler commenting on Feinstein's passing over the weekend, saying, not only was she a titan in the Senate, but a legendary figure for women in politics and around the country. Her legacy and achievements will not be forgotten. With Butler's selection to the Senate, she will step down from her role as president of Emily's List, a political organization that supports Democratic women candidates who favor abortion rights.
He picked somebody who's the leader of Emily's List, who's going to be at the forefront of talking about issues involving gender equality and reproductive choice.
She is also a former labor leader with SEIU 2015, a powerful force in California politics. ABC 7 interviewed Butler in 2015 while fighting for higher wages for in-home healthcare workers.
This group of workers is fundamental to the backbone of our communities. They take care of the elderly, they take care of the disabled, they make sure that all of those other workers can actually go to work and not be confined to making sure that our state's most vulnerable are taken care of.
Butler could be sworn in as early as Tuesday evening when the Senate returns to session. Sophie Flay, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Michelle, Jory.
So she was a labor leader.
She was a labor leader.
And so it's good to have a labor leader in the Senate. So why don't we, there's a 5-minute clip that I have for when, it's about 11 years ago, part of a speech that she made to SEIU 775. Let's watch that and then maybe we can comment on what she had to say to the union.
A few immigrant janitors in Chicago who faced down their building owners at a time when it was unpopular, at a time when it was unsafe, and some considered it a time when it was even un-American. Mary Kay often refers to a newspaper article at the time that says that these janitors were the workers that God forgot. But together, in the face of all odds, these few men created what would become known as the Service Employees International Union, the most powerful workers' organization in this country, created by the ideal of together. So when you find yourself asking me, what am I talking about when I say the power of together, that is an example of the power of together. When you think about the stories of our two locals, each go together like hand in glove. As Pam referenced, and I'm sure David spoke about this morning, in 1999, once a collective bargaining agreement had been secured for the Los Angeles home care workers, the national SEIU leaders, along with your leader, David Rolfe, decided to build a movement of home care workers across the country. LA Home Care led to Washington Home Care. Washington Home Care led to Illinois Home Care. Illinois Home Care led to Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Michigan and Massachusetts. Next year, under David Rolfe's leadership of our National Home Care Council, that movement will be continuing to Minnesota and Vermont. Together is how over 600,000 home care workers who were some described as non-existent, some described as not useful. 600,000 workers together have become the largest political mobilization body in SEIU. "775, I call that the power of together." Good morning. But our story of together is not just a story about home care. How many nursing home workers we have in the house this morning? Shout them out, nursing home workers. Our story of together also includes the story of nursing home workers. In the early 2000s, SEIU locals were struggling to figure out how to unite the voices of nursing home workers and win real power. We had been trying mightily to do it on our own. And we each would win the elections that we were able to run. And we would do good for our members. My mother would say that I shouldn't have said that, but we would do good. In the early 2000s, we decided together that good was not good enough. We decided that we needed to reach across state lines, that we need to go beyond the employers that we were working with, that together we needed to create what became the Nursing Home Alliance, where we were finally able to unite thousands of nursing home workers in our union, secure real wage increases, improve health care benefits, and guarantee rights on the job. We have an incredible story of together.
Well, not too many U.S. senators, I think, did that type of work before they got to the Senate.
Trying to think of one, to be honest.
I mean, you know.
I think the closest is probably Bernie Sanders,
Yeah.
if I remember right.
Well-
And he didn't quite do that. He came from a small town in
Well,
Gross.
but she was organizing, home care workers and nursing home workers. And right here in Berkshire County, we have a situation where the visiting nurses,
which are part of home care.
which is a type of home care, it's part of it, they're in negotiation. So we had this letter from the
M&A?
the M&A,
Mass
they
Nurses
asked us to
Association.
read this, and it's to Darlene Rodowitz, and they're asking other people to sign it and send it to her. She's the CEO of Berkshire Health Systems. It says, "Dear Ms. Rodowitz, I am writing out of concern for the Berkshire County patients who may be unable to access timely, high-quality home care because of staffing issues faced by the Berkshire Visiting Nurses Association. I am also alarmed by the lengthy negotiations between Berkshire Health Systems and the Massachusetts Nurses Association that have yet to result in a fair contract for the BVNA clinicians. These two issues are clearly linked. The BVNA has lost nurses and physical and occupational therapists because of a non-competitive pay and unsustainable working conditions. They are seeking improvements in these areas, but BHS appears entrenched in its position. By not agreeing to a contract with a wage, step scale, and realistic productivity standards, BHS is driving clinicians away and making it increasingly difficult for patients to receive care. On July 19, 2023, Pri Shan, an administrative director for BVNA, announced that because of the significant change in staffing at all levels, the association would stop taking new patients in 15 towns. The reduction accounted for 47% of the towns in BVNA's service area, including 3 communities in North Berkshire County. BVNA nurses and healthcare professionals have been expressing concern about the possibility for years. At the time of the service reduction, BVNA has lost about 20% of its staff over the previous year. The reason for this are evident at the bargaining table. Home care has become more complicated and time-intensive. Hospitals like Berkshire Medical Center discharge patients to homes more quickly, and documentation requirements have grown. Amid these changes, BHS has been proposing to further increase the workload on BVNA clinicians. Some nurses and therapists are already driving between 50 to 100 miles to care for patients each day. What will happen to the patients who can no longer be served by the association because of the staff leaving? If patients cannot find a replacement home care service, they may end up in a nursing home or simply languish without the appropriate care. It is essential that BHS quickly complete negotiations and include these key issues in their final agreement. 1, a wage step scale of the kind that the MNA represented nurses and health professionals have at every collective bargaining agreement throughout the Commonwealth. This will enable the BVNA to have enough clinicians to care for patients throughout the service area. Productivity language that reflects the reality of home care today and allows clinicians to spend an appropriate amount of time providing patient care and support and documenting. I'll stop now because it
keeps going.
It keeps going, but you know.
It does. I mean, because this is the newest trend, supposedly, to help patients recover by getting them home faster so they're in an environment that's comfortable. But the question then becomes, is the environment safe and does it really meet their needs?
You know, there's not enough workers, not enough nurses. There's a shortage.
At this point, there is. Yeah.
So we need to get more nurses and...
I mean, because we have the other end. We have the home workers who come in to help clean and do the grocery shopping and stuff. And sometimes they end up in a position where they have to help the patient take the medicines because there isn't a nurse coming to do it,
and they can't go out and get prescriptions for people either. They're not allowed to, and they're not allowed to wrap legs anymore. Also,
right.
And there's a lot of other things that they can provide because a lot of times when people are in their home, they don't have transportation to get to a hospital or to a doctor's office.
Right.
And the visiting nurse can be there, eyes on the patient, take whatever vitals they need to do, and then communicate to the doctor. So it's a very important thing. So we just want to support those home care.
Those home nurses.
Yeah,
we do.
Here locally. So there's
especially since this is a trend that BHS supposedly supports, so you should support the people who are working in that industry.
Right. And it's going to affect us here in North County when we get our hospital opened again.
Right.
They're going to need care in North County too. We're going to need more VNA. But thank you very much. Power to the people.
As always.
So.
There's power in the factory, power in the land, power in the hand of the worker. But it all amounts to nothing if together we don't stand. There is power in our union. Now the lessons of the past were all learned with workers' blood. Mistakes of the bosses we must pay for. The trenches full of mud. War's always been the bosses.